holiday commemoration to honor Northampton Township's veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice. My pleasure to introduce Colonel Wendell Rich, Vice Chairman of the Veterans Advisory Commission of Northampton Township, as our Master of Ceremonies this morning. Colonel Rich.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel Robini. It is an honor and a privilege serving as the MC for the 9th. This is the 9th celebration we've had right here in Northampton Township. Even though it's the 9th here, nationwide, the 150th anniversary of Memorial Day. And I want to thank the chaplain for the weather. I even wore sunglasses today, so I'm very optimistic that we're going to get the weather to hold out for us. So let's get this started. Sergeant, sound assembly. Please remain standing for the National Anthem, which will be sung by Fahey from Council Rock South High School, and also remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
If you please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. pleasure seats. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Northampton Township Board of Supervisors, Chairman, and also liaison to the Township Veterans Commission, Larry Weinstein.
Good morning, everyone. Truly amazing to see so many of you out here despite the threat of rain, the rain that was going on this morning. Thank you to the Veterans Advisory Commission for every single Memorial Day putting on just a meaningful ceremony. Thank you for all the work that you do. Memorial Day is about sacrifice, the sacrifice that our United States veterans made to preserve our freedom. And while I didn't have the courage to enlist, I learned about the sacrifice that our military makes through my grandfather, a proud United States Army World War II vet. My grandfather didn't talk about the service very much. In fact, the only way you'd really know that he was in the military was when he cheered for Army during the Army-Navy game and the cursing that went on when Jane Fonda came on the TV screen. I remember back during January of 1991, I was staying over at my grandparents' house and I was woken up in the middle of the night, my grandfather screaming. He was already in his 80s by then and I got scared to death. I ran to his room and found him still sleeping, but tossing and turning violently. Figured it was just a nightmare. And when my grandmother told the family that it had happened time and time again over the next several weeks, we spoke to my grandfather, and he said that the onset of the Gulf War had brought back flashbacks from World War II and exacerbated his PTSD. I figured that this was a good time where I could talk to my grandfather and learn about what he had experienced in the military. I found out that the day my father was born, my grandfather was sworn into the United States Army. He would never get to see his son crawl, never got to see him walk for the first time, and never got to hear him say "Dada." That is sacrifice. My grandfather also talked to me about his experience with island hopping throughout the Pacific. Talked to me about winning a Silver Star on the island of the Philippines during a battle where he pulled out one of his fellow U.S. soldiers out of an ammunition dump just moments before it exploded. And he also talked to me about the cause for the exacerbation of the PTSD, the flashbacks that he had begun having again, which was the incident where he won a Bronze Star. It was on the island of Saipan. My grandfather and another U.S. soldier were guarding a general when a Japanese infantryman was able to get into the foxhole and immediately killed the other guard. My grandfather began hand-to-hand combat with a Japanese soldier, and he was able to wrestle the Japanese soldier's gun away from him and stab him to death with his bayonet. As my grandfather was telling me the story, there were tears in his eyes. He told me about that evening just lying all night long on the Japanese soldier's body, wondering if my grandfather would ever get to meet his son. My grandfather was a proud veteran. He believed in every single aspect of the mission of World War II. And he recognized that it would be either the Japanese soldier or himself. But I guess unless you've had the opportunity or the experience of hand-to-hand combat and having to fatally wound somebody, we can't understand what he went through and how it had plagued him for the next 40 years of his life. That is sacrifice. Now, it doesn't mean it wasn't meaningful to say that millions of other United States veterans have shared the same experience. It was life-changing for my grandfather. But those life-changing events happen every single day to members of our United States military. So please, not only on Memorial Day, not only on Veterans Day, every day, we need to say how much we appreciate our United States veterans, our United States active duty military members, and certainly to our Gold Star families who have suffered just as much, if not more, than our members of the military. So thank you all again for being here. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
That's the first time I heard the story of Larry's grandfather. Very nice. By the way, thanks for bearing with us with that slight delay we had. We had a little problem with the microphone cord. But we're now back up and running. Just in time for Doug Fulford, who's the chaplain of the Northampton Township Police Department. Doug?
Thank you, veterans. Thank you for the veterans that are here today to celebrate the day in remembrance that the world, the United States remembers our veterans. Let's have a word of prayer for a moment. Father in heaven, we thank you for this time that we can gather and give tribute to the veterans that have served our country, that gave so much to sacrifice, many of them. Father, we pray for each one of them. We pray that you would watch over them, take care of them, and just guide their lives and help them share their story of what they may have experienced. We thank you for your love and your faithfulness. We thank you in your Son's name. Amen.
You probably can't see it, but we have a POW chair right where the gentleman with the Air Force hat is. I believe it's right in that vicinity right there. And it's an empty chair. Those who have served and those serving the United States as members of the uniformed services, as civil servants, contractors, are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. We now pause to recognize our prisoners of war, missing in action and killed in action. We call your attention to this small chair. It's a shame you can't see it. It's because we had to rearrange here, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is placed with the flag remembering our fallen and missing. It is set here for one, symbolizing the fact that some are missing from our ranks. They are POWs, MIAs, and KIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be here today with loved ones and families, so we join together to pay our humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued absence. This year is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her.
presence and offer some remarks. Our country has lost over its course of history 1.4 million Americans in the defense of the country. That doesn't speak to those that die on training accidents or on vehicle accidents or get sick while they're in uniform. That's 1.4 million that are killed in an act of war contingency. I'm going to give you, today's all about those people. It's not about the veterans, it's not about those of us that are standing here in our uniform. It's about people like Kenny Elwell and Rob Dembowski, who paid the ultimate sacrifice and the pain that their families endure today. It's a solemn day. I'll give you a little bit of history, some stats, speak some people's names, and some of my personal insight into the type of soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors like these two gentlemen we talk about today, to give you some insight into their lives and perhaps their death and what they did. Memorial Day began as Decoration Day 150 years ago following the Civil War. It was a day to remember those that lost their lives. It became a federal holiday in 1971 and continues today. Some people see it just as another day off. Those of you here know, and it is not just another day off. It's to remember these folks that paid the ultimate sacrifice. Some statistics. I talked about the 1.4 million that gave their lives in uniform. I won't go through all the wars, but 750,000 of those were in the Civil War, which is about half of those were lost. 117,000 World War I. World War II, 408,000, including 265 from Bucks County. Korean War, about 154,000, including 38 from Bucks County. Vietnam, about 58,000, including 98 from Bucks County, 8 of which were from Northampton Township. Don Campbell, Douglas Post, Walter Sigafus III, Harry Wilson, William Booth, Jeffrey Ham, and Robert Hill. When I growing up down the road, we lived near the Booth's house. And my older brother used to deliver the papers, and we'd always talk about his kids, like, that's Booth, and their son was killed in Vietnam, and that's the way we remember that house. The people were very lovely, and I used to see it at Council Rock High School, his picture up amongst with about 13 or so pictures of those from Council Rock that gave their life in Vietnam. The Gulf War, 294, Iraq and Afghanistan, about 7,000, including 17 from Bucks County, and 2 which have been spoken about, Robert Dembowski and Kenny Elwell from Northampton. These are the folks that is what it's about today. Regardless of the policy, the strategy, the operational design, the tactical orders they received, but somewhere in their service, they met up, they served to those orders, and they met their fate doing what they were supposed to do to protect our freedoms. And the purpose of the statistics is to provide some context and scope. Overall, it's a small percentage of the American population that have given their life while serving. And we're grateful for that. It could be a heck of a lot worse. The purpose of the names is to remind us behind each one of those statistics is a selfless and courageous American who stepped up to the plate when he was needed, he or her was needed, and to serve a purpose more greater than themselves and laid down their lives for others. That's the ultimate act of love. Father McLaughlin spoke about it at St. Vincent's de Paul yesterday, the sacrifice that these folks make and how it is an act of love for their countrymen, for their families, for us here today. The vast majority were young. We'd never see middle age. They didn't get a reception to come home, heroes welcome like a lot of us did coming back from our various exploits in the military. Many of them never had families of their own or left their families to be raised by someone else. They had loved ones who tearfully watched them leave, hoping they'd come back. And as we know, that would never happen for these folks that we're talking about. I'd like to shift some focus and talk about the life of a bit of a serviceman and from an infantry perspective, which is what these two gentlemen, Dembowski and Elwell, which is what they were. They were infantrymen. Different service than I, but still they're infantrymen, and I understand a bit, I think, of what they went through. From what I understand about both these fellows is neither of them were scholastically inclined. They weren't looking for college. We allowed a lot about people going to college, et cetera, et cetera. These guys liked the outdoors. They got through high school fine, and they had a passion to go into the service. PFC and Dembowski initially wanted to go in the Marine Corps. Sergeant Elwell wanted to go in the Army, and eventually Dembowski went into the Army as well. So they put aside their this was their personal ambition. And as we know now, as fate would have it, it was their mission in life, perhaps their divine purpose. But these type of guys are few and far between. If you look how many people join the service following high school from graduation from Council Rock or anywhere, it's a very small few. And these are the guys that had the guts to do it, wanted to do it, and they got to do it. Not only that, for these two folks here that we're talking about, Dembowski and McCall, Elwell, both chose the infantry. It's one thing to join the service. It's another thing to go in the combat arms arena, which is like tanks, artillery, and infantry. It's another thing to go in, specifically to go to the infantry. The mission of the infantry is to close with and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, fire and close combat. It's not to increase your technical skills with a computer or read history or anything. It's down and dirty. It's the last 100 yards of war. You're going to see people up front and close, and you're going to have to deal with them in a compassionate way or a less friendly way. So it requires a considerable degree of grit and determination that highlights their courage to proceed into the unknown. They're prepared to look in the enemy's eyes and destroy them, as well as the spirit of teamwork and camaraderie. They didn't die alone, they died alongside their fellow soldiers who became just about their family while they're in their units and while they were deployed. It becomes difficult at best to translate any of these things that they did into technical skills that would make them more marketable on the other side of their service, whenever that would be. This was about the true sense of what we have our armed forces for. Most other MOSs, military occupational skills, will support these guys on the ground to get the job done. So they were true blue. I first heard of their deaths from my mother, who kept me informed of Northampton Township happenings, and need a medical assistant here, please. Okay, I'm going to continue on here. I'm going to get right to Master Sergeant Kenneth Elwell. He grew up in Holland, joined the Army, became what we could term as a lifer. Spent about 14 years. That deployment where he was ultimately killed in Afghanistan was not his first rodeo. He had been to Iraq and Bosnia before. At his grade, it was likely that he was in charge of 20 to 40 infantry soldiers underneath him. He was no stranger to training, deployments, family separation. He would learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations in the most arduous locations. He was likely highly skilled with many weapon systems, an expert tactician, and a strong leader. His death, which was caused by an improvised explosive device while on a foot patrol in Kandahar, Afghanistan, is clear evidence that he led by example, had courage on the battlefield, and walked the walk and shared the danger with his men. Private First Class Robert Dembowski grew up down the road at Polinsky Road. Down the road, it was called Polinsky Road, and his family's home, which we often pass by. He was a childhood friend of my nephew Jimmy, who served as a Marine in Afghanistan. During their early years in high school, they hunted together with some other guys behind my parents' home where I grew up. They had some of the same classes in school designed for kids who were deemed to need some learning support. Private First Class Dembowski initially wanted to join the Marine Corps due to some medical conditions. Once they were cleared up, he ended up going to the Army in 2006. If you can place yourself back in that time in 2006, Iraq wasn't going too well. It was pre-surge time. There was a lot of division about why we're there or not. Robert Dembowski stepped up to the plate. He joined the Army. Not just did he join the Army, he went into the Army Airborne, which speaks a lot of his skills and capabilities. He was known for being kind-hearted towards veterans and fulfilled his passion for service, participated in the surge. He had the boldness and skills required to become a member of the 82nd Airborne, and he died in Iraq while manning a checkpoint by a sniper's bullet. It's a very dangerous place, obviously, and he had the boldness, courage to man his post where he met his fate. As infantrymen, both soldiers were a special breed of American fighting men. Dirty, sweaty, gritty, trustworthy, and proud. They likely met their fates in the heat of the summer in Iraq and Afghanistan with heavy laden gear and their fellow soldiers around them trying to support them and save their lives. Recently retired Marine General John Kelly, who lost his son in Afghanistan in 2010. When his son died, he was an infantryman, he was a lieutenant. He sent out, we were all waiting to see what General Kelly would say about this. He had given his life to the Marine Corps, and now his son lost his life as a Marine. And he sent an email out that was titled, "My Son," was the title of it. I don't have the whole email, but I remember what resonated with me is he kept a very stiff back, which was good because the enemy was probably watching also to see how he would respond. He didn't badmouth the United States or our mission there, but he talked about the unimaginable pain that goes through a family when such a death occurs, and we can, for the Elwells and for the Dembowskis, none of us can ever really live in your shoes. We can't pay you debt because it would cheapen the loss of Rob and Kenny. But I hope that you, with the crew here today, that we will remember them forever here in Northampton, and I know for sure that their buddies will remember them wherever they are. So thank you for coming to Memorial Day, and thank you for allowing me to make these remarks.
Firing detail. Hit, cut. Half right. Face. Port, arm. Safety. Ready. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Raise hand. Arm.
seats. Please take your seats as I bring this to the conclusion. But before I do, is Lori Loughlin here? Bernadette Hayden. Or as the sergeant would say, Bernadette Hayden, front and center. Yeah, it's a shame Laurie's not here. She's been a long-term member of our association, the Veterans Commission, and we want to recognize her with flowers, but...
Yeah, just to say a couple, how many people here know Laurie? Yeah, she's been the best. She is an original member of the committee, and when it was a committee, now it's a commission. She's moving from Northampton, unfortunate for us, but good for her. She's had some health issues. She was packing Saturday, moving tomorrow, and I guess coming out today was just too much. But she's been instrumental in everything that we've done, from the great USO dance we had a few years ago to all the little things we do you don't see, and right up to these events, the big events that everybody sees. So I'd just like everybody to give Laurie a real nice hand, and when you see her, pass on your best wishes. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Before I conclude, I'd like to thank the fire department and police department. And last but not least, our first responders, the rescue, especially today, we needed them. And our public work guys, of course. A lot of this won't happen without our public works. Anyway, in conclusion, last September, my wife and I visited Normandy beaches and Normandy Cemetery. It was on my bucket list. I cannot express the emotions that we felt. Funny to think back. Anyway, these today brings back those memories, as you can tell. I would like to close these remarks with a part of the song you may have heard earlier, sung by Lee Greenwood. I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I hope everyone here today remembers the true meaning of Memorial Day, especially as you go forth to our barbecues and family activities, and now you realize there's more to Memorial Day than family activities. And also I'd like to send my thanks and to all the contributors that helped today. Our sound system, which we had a little problem in the beginning, but thanks to Tom Yeagle, he made it work. So I'd like to thank Tom. The bottled water, I hope you all got that from Richboro shopping bag. Our bugler, Kathleen McCall. Singer, Kate Fahey, Council Rock South High School. Township Manager, Bob Pellegrini, and Lisa Russo. Northampton Township Public Works Department, which I mentioned before. Our bagpipers, Paul Carney and Robert Grover. Service flag display, American Legion Post 79 from New Hope. Our Fireside Flowers for the beautiful wreath today. 82nd Airborne Division Association members. Our Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association members. Our Patriot Detachment, Marine Corps League, and Commander Dick Weaver. The NCO calling the commands, Buck Kowaleski. I hope I pronounced it right. And our chaplain.